So welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Kevin, and it is great to be with you after a bit of a longer break than we were expecting to take here in the podcast. If you remember our very last episode, we talked about with a bunch of changes that were going on in our family. Danielle was going to step aside from co-hosting this podcast, but we still felt it was really important to continue this podcast going as we talk about wellness. Especially from a Christian leadership perspective. Well, the short break turned into significantly longer than what either of us expected, and not for anything majorly bad, but just life. And life has a way of derailing some things sometime. And we're going to talk about that derailment in a future episode. But today I want to kick off this new season of the podcast talking about why is it so difficult to make the wellness changes that we want to take. Maybe you really connect with that statement. You want to get in shape. You want to start going to the gym. You want to start eating healthy. You want to read your Bible more. You want to reconcile some broken relationships. You want to do something to improve your mental health. Right? We're all on this wellness journey of body, soul, and spirit. And sometimes the best of intentions is just not enough to actually get to the goal that we have. So a number of years ago, I was at a leadership conference called the Global Leadership Summit, which is hosted out of Willow Creek Church down in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. And I can't remember exactly who presented this. I think it was during the authors of the book Made to Stick. But they talked about how psychologists talk about that our brains have two different systems. We have a rational system and we have an emotional system. And the rational system is the part of our brain that thinks, that plans, that strategizes, that evaluates, that analyzes. And the emotional system is the part of our brain that responds from the heart. It's how we feel, how this makes us happy, how this makes us sad, how this is terrible, or how this is great. And so if you want to picture really, really well how those two systems work together, there's a psychologist who framed it this way. Think of a human rider on a 6-ton elephant. And now this elephant and this rider, they're on a path and they are trying to get to a specific destination. Now, the rider represents the rational system of the brain. This is the part where the rider knows where he wants to go. He knows where the destination is. He knows which path he has to take to get there. The elephant represents the emotional side of the brain, where, if we're really honest, and you can kind of see where this analogy is going, is no matter how much the rider, no matter how much the rational tries to drive the emotional, no matter how much the human rider tries to drive that 6-ton elephant, the elephant is gonna win. You can't make those emotions go where they don't want to go, right? That's why, even though you just rationalized, maybe you got some results from the doctor, and the doctor says, no, you really got to start changing your eating habits because you're on a bad path. You're actually going down a bad path. And if you keep eating this way, it's going to cause you some pretty serious issues. And so you know you need to change that eating habit, but you keep eating those donuts anyways. You keep eating that extra large pepperoni pizza anyways. You keep going to the fast food place and getting ice cream. That's an emotional response. The rational and the emotion are in tension. Now, this elephant and this rider, they're also on a path. And along the path can be very rocky. That's the external forces that are at play when we're trying to make a change, when we're trying to implement wellness into our lives. And sometimes that outward path, it's beyond our control. Life happens, things happen, and they just kind of get thrown at us, and big trees or giant rocks or avalanches come down and they block the path. And so what this psychologist put together is if you really want to see lasting change in your life, you have to do 3 things. First, you have to have a clear set of goals. You have to know where you're going. What are you trying to accomplish? I'm trying to lose, say, for example, I'm trying to lose 10 pounds, right? You have a goal, you have an objective. I'm trying to draw closer to God. I'm trying to deal with some stress and some anxiety in my life, right? A very specific goal. So the rider has to set the goal. Then what you got to do is you got to find a way to engage the emotion. You just can't let the emotion dictate whether or not this is going to happen. You have to engage the emotion so the emotion is excited to actually get to the destination. Why would I be excited to lose another 10 pounds? Well, is it just simply so that I can look better in a bathing suit? Is it so that I look good during beach season? Or is it so that I can feel better, so that I can do my ministry better, so that I can get down on the floor and play with grandkids if you got grandkids without dealing with pain, right? You want to get the emotion in there. I'm doing this because I want to play with my grandkids. I want to do this because I want to lead my organization well. I want to do this because I want to be a good example to other people. I want to deal with my anxiety so that I can just have better relationships with family members. Like, get the emotion involved. And then the third thing that you got to do is you got to clear the path, right? Sometimes you got to pivot. Sometimes the way you thought you were going to get there changes. Well, I thought I was going to go to the gym 5 times a week, but it's just not working out with my schedule, and I'm eating too many donuts after I go to the gym, so I'm going to do a home workout program instead. Or anything like that. I was working with this psychiatrist, but we're just not clicking, and I just feel kind of spinning, so I'm going to find a new psychiatrist to work with, or I'm going to go to a new doctor. I'm going to try a different, medication. But those type of things, right? We have to learn to pivot on that pathway. And so by engaging those 3 things, knowing the destination, engaging the rider, and clearing the path, we're more likely to make the change that we want to make. So how does that relate to you? I know in my own life journey of wellness, the times when I'm failing the most in my pursuit of wellness is when I don't have a clear goal. Like, if my goal is simply to exercise, it's easy to cancel it. It's easy to go, well, it's not a big deal if I don't do it. It's easier to just turn on the TV and watch like an old 90s sitcom, watch multiple episodes a night, than getting on my exercise mat or going down to the gym and actually lifting up a bunch of weights and trying to get back into the shape that I want to get into. Exercise on its own is not a big enough goal because it's not exciting, and it doesn't engage the emotion. Watching this sitcom actually engages the emotion more because it's funny. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to enjoy some time with my wife. We're going to be relaxed. We're going to chill out after a long day. That emotion is going to win. So I need a very, very clear goal. This is why in other episodes we've talked about the idea of having SmackDown goals. That's the DDPY equivalent of having SMART goals, making them specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and timely. And so you got to set very, very specific goals. And so again, when I'm not doing as good in my fitness journey, my goal's not specific enough. My goal's not attainable enough. It's just too out there, and there's nothing to grasp at and to move towards. It's not measurable. Same thing, like even with my mental health, when I'm working on, it's like, I really want to talk to a counselor this week, and it's expensive, and I've used up all my insurance, and I don't want to pay that money. Well, if there isn't a goal for why I'm doing that mental health work, why would I just keep doing it? Why would I just keep paying, all that money, that hourly rate that's not cheap? Why would I pay that just without a specific goal that I'm trying to attain? So I know personally, I drop the ball more and more when I don't have that goal. I also drop the ball personally when my heart's just not in it. And that's where I've personally been for the last 2 months. Back in early June, my wife and I had the opportunity to get down to Guelph, Ontario for the DDPY Transformation Summit. And my wife and I had the great opportunity to meet with Diamond Dallas Page and his wife, Paige McMahon Page, and to do a workout and to get motivated and to learn more about DDPY. Now, I didn't need to go there to learn about DDPY. I'm already a level 1 instructor. I'm already a fast track coach. So why would I bother going down there just to hear something, get motivated about something? Honestly, I needed to get down there because I needed to get my heart back in the game. Like, I was doing the workouts, I was doing the coaching, I'm doing my classes, but it was just starting to feel a little bit like routine. It was just not as fun or not as dynamic. So for me to go down to Guelph where there was like, I can't remember, it was about 150 other people, almost 200 people there, and just being in this larger community and people with all the same goals and people trying to improve their life, improve their wellness. It was just so motivating. You know, I have a few minutes to talk to Diamond Dallas Page and with Paige, to meet other people who I've only got to meet online, meet some of the Positive and Unstoppable champions. Like, it re-engaged the heart. Problem was, then I got back home and then I just got back into the rut of things, and that emotional system that's up in here, connected to here, just started to disengage again. So I've been back on that journey. Like, no, why am I doing this? Like, what excites me about this? Why do I love feeling this way? Why do I love this workout program? Why do I love these people? Why do I love being a blessing to other people? Re-engage those emotions, and then once the emotions kick in, then the rider's like, let's go, we can make it. And the third way that I know when I'm failing in my pursuit of my wellness is when I'm just not properly dealing with the obstacles that get thrown at me. Again, that's going to be an episode, a podcast episode another time, but that's been this past year. There's just been obstacle after obstacle after obstacle that has derailed so much of what I wanted to be doing here in this podcast and on this YouTube channel. And now I'm finally getting that path cleaned up so I can get back to the podcast, get back to this channel, and re-engage with all of you so that we can continue this wellness journey together. But I wasn't dealing with the path. I was just letting all the rocks and the sticks all pile up, and then I'm stumbling all over them. I've gotten back into clearing that up. Very measurable, specific things that I want to attain. So, what about you? How are you fighting that rational and that emotional system? Do you have a goal in your mental health, in your spiritual health, in your physical health? What is your goal? Where do you want to see improvement in your life? Write it down. Grab a journal, dollar journal from the dollar store. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just write it down, bullet list. You don't have to be an author to do this. Just write down a goal that you want to attain. And then your rider is going to start making plans to do that. What is it going to take? Reading your Bible, going for counseling, talking to your doctor, starting to work out, signing up for my DDPY fitness class, signing up for fast track coaching. What could that be for you, right? And then your emotion, your heart. How are you going to get that emotional system to kick in and be a part of the process and not fight against you when you're trying to do this, right? I want to encourage you to do that. And so as you're thinking about that, just let you know what's coming up in the podcast. I've got a really exciting season coming up. I'm going to be shifting focus a little bit. We're still talking about wellness from emotional, spiritual, and physical. But I want to talk about like how we really revitalize ourselves. How do we not just settle for fine? How do we kind of keep taking those steps to improve ourselves? And again, and not just for improvement's sake. I'm a huge believer that we as followers of Christ are called to be a blessing everywhere that we go, right? In the book of Acts, we read the words of Jesus where he said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. Now, I have been incredibly blessed to receive a lot. I have a beautiful home. I have an incredible wife. I have 2 amazing children. I'm incredibly blessed. I get to pastor an amazing church here in the city of Ottawa. I'm blessed, blessed, blessed. And because I'm so blessed, well, I want to experience even more blessing of God. Well, the way I'm going to experience more blessing of God, according to the words of Jesus, is to give it away, to bless more and more people. Right, so that's what I want us to focus on in this season of the podcast. We're going to be talking about different ways that you and we improve ourselves, not just for our sake. So God would use us as followers of Jesus to be a blessing wherever we go, whether that's in our families, whether that's in our workplace, whether that's in our church, whether that's in our community. Wherever God sends you, you are called to be a blessing. So I'm really, really excited about the season ahead. We're going to do this with different topics. We might bring in some guests from time to time. And so I'd really, really want to encourage you to make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, wherever you listen or watch podcasts. And I encourage you to share it and interact with me as well. Tell me what works for you. Tell me what's not working for you. Tell me, did you connect with this material? The more we share with one another in the context of community here in the podcast, I know we will bless more and more people as we revitalize ourselves and we see God do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine through his power at work in his church. So again, this is Kevin, and so signing off from this latest episode. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit like, share this, and I look forward to seeing you real soon in the next episode of the podcast. God bless you.